Hi, and welcome to episode 4 of the 21st Century Pharmacist Show. As always, I hope you'll share this, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that we can help more people. I think today's information will be things that you will find that be very beneficial to you, but also to other people that you know and love and would like to have better health. So we'd certainly appreciate you helping us spread the word. And we're going to answer a couple of questions today like we've been doing. And before we do that, I want to remind you about our free upcoming wellness workshop on Thursday the 25th. That's this week, Thursday the 25th at 6:30 p.m. in our Prescriptions Plus Pharmacy in Kings Mountain. We have a classroom upstairs. You can reserve your spot at optimylife.com. Please do so. You won't be disappointed you come. All right, let's get right to the questions. Cody, what's today's first question?
What are the most important steps for fat loss, not necessarily weight loss?
Okay, so fat loss, that's a great question because we want to talk a lot more about losing fat than we do about weight. We do a lot of talk about and teaching about how we want to have a good muscle to fat ratio. And that doesn't always equate to what I weigh on the scale, because fat is actually I can have more fat and weigh less on the scale. I can have more muscle and weigh more on the scale. So I want to make sure that I'm getting a good muscle to fat ratio. So burning fat is the key and not just losing weight. So we have people, I have a lady, Teresa, who's gone down 4 dress sizes and has only lost a few pounds. At one point she was down 3 dress sizes and then actually gained a couple of pounds. But she was very happy. So we know that we've reduced her fat to muscle ratio because we measure it. So the first step that I would tell everybody, and this is going to seem really out of the way, it's going to seem crazy, but the first step to losing fat is to eat the right fat and to eat plenty of the right fats. Now when I say the right fats, it can't be bad, damaged trans fats. It can't be the things that are often taught on the food plates and food pyramids. It needs to be really high quality fats that our body can use for fuel. The reason that the body doesn't want to let go of fat is actually our most efficient fuel, and it's our survival fuel. So when the body doesn't get enough good fat, the body will try to hold on to fat for survival. So step number 1 is to make sure we're eating plenty of good fats. And the beauty of eating good fats is not only are they good for us, but they taste great. So they have a lot of good benefits. And when I start doing this, the body will start to release the fats that are in the system. The second step that I would say is most important to burning fat is to drink at least a gallon of Kangen water daily. Kangen water is made from a medical device in Japan. It's a specialized water, and it helps the body. It can help the body more efficiently be hydrated. It can help the body detox more efficiently. And guess where toxins are typically stored? To protect our organs, in fat. Toxins are what we call lipophilic, or they have an affinity for fat. So when I can flush more toxins out of the system with the right water and the right amount of water on a daily basis, I can start to see inches come off the waistline. So that's always a good thing. Step 3, I think, is to make sure that we're not counting calories, we're not weighing, we're not measuring, we're not doing any of those things. Losing fat is actually not about eating less. Losing fat for most people is typically about eating more. It's just more of the right things. So which leads me right into step 4, which step 4 is make only quality carbohydrate choices. So all the carbohydrates that we eat come from greens, come from vegetables. So while we're not cutting out carbohydrates, we want to make sure that the carbohydrate choices we make are very high quality choices. So we want things like broccoli, asparagus, zucchini, cauliflower, those type of greens, kale. We want those type of greens and not the type of carbohydrates that most people are accustomed to eating, which are breads and pastas and rice and potatoes and different things like that, okay? So we want to avoid those. So step 1, eat a lot of fat, just make it the right fats. Step 2, make sure that we're drinking at least a gallon of Kangen water a day, more if possible. And this always is I'm always going to preface this by making sure that you don't have heart or kidney issues. If you do, certainly follow your doctor's advice for the amount of fluid you take in a day. Just make that fluid the Kangen water. And then step 3, we talked about make sure that we're not cutting calories, we're not counting grams, we're not counting calories, we're not weighing or measuring, we're eating good quality choices until we're full. And then step 4 is to make sure that all our carbohydrates are of the highest quality and are typically going to be reserved to coming from the green family. Okay, so that was a great question. Thank you for that question. Please send more questions so we can answer a few each and every week. And we have another one we're going to do today. Cody, what's number 2?
What is gluten and why is it bad for our health?
Okay, so yeah, this is a question that I get a ton about. I just had a lady the last week that I talked to that has been diagnosed with celiac disease. And so she has a super sensitive reaction to gluten. And gluten is actually a protein that's found in grains or found in wheat. And so gluten is a protein that oftentimes our bodies have a problem digesting. And when it is a severe autoimmune reaction to this type of, from this type of gluten from the grains, what happens is we have massive reactions in the gut, and we can have gut pain, and we can have bloating, and we can have skin rash, and we can have weight gain, and we can have all kind of crazy things that we see with this. And it's not necessarily just things that we eat, but a lot of lotions and cosmetics can even contain gluten, and I've seen this create quite the reaction in the 1 or 2% of people who are diagnosed with celiac. So it can be a real problem that people notice immediately in some cases. The other problem though with gluten is that even though we may not have a bloating or a rash or any of these type of symptoms that I just talked about, like a celiac person, we still have problems in our digestive system when we eat gluten. It's very hard. It's a very hard protein for our bodies to digest. So I always recommend that people avoid gluten. And gluten can create a myriad of issues, and I've already mentioned some of them, but let's kind of go down the list. Number 1 is that gluten can set off an autoimmunity reaction in certain people. It creates what we call leaky gut, where actually the lining of our intestines the permeability of it will be damaged, and things that are not supposed to leak into the bloodstream actually can from the gluten sensitivity or from the gluten breakdown. So it creates leaky gut, which can lead to any and all kind of diseases and problems that we can name. Okay, so it creates inflammatory processes, so it creates inflammation not only in our gut, but sometimes when we have leaky gut, then it creates inflammation in other joints and other places in our body. It can actually create skin conditions or rashes that we often see, and we think, hey, we might need to put a cream or an ointment on them. And while that can help, if it's coming from the gut, we need to correct the gut issue. So gluten can decrease my immune system by having an adverse effect on the good bacteria in my gut. So that's one of the reasons that one of my 4 supplements is 4 foundational supplements is a good quality probiotic that I designed so that we can make sure we're replacing those gut bacteria. We're making sure that our immune system is intact. So just think, if gluten can have, and this is just some of the effects that I'm naming here on this show, gluten can have many other negative effects. Gluten, going back to the last question, can make me gain fat. It can make it hard for me to lose weight, so it can help me gain fat. It can help us gain fat. It can help us gain weight. So it can actually affect the brain. Dr. David Perlmutter wrote a book called Grain Brain, and how there's a grain issue that actually affects our brain when we have gluten. So all these things can happen. So it's just simple. If we avoid gluten, we'll be much healthier, we'll feel better, we'll think clearer, we'll have more energy. And you know, when I went out to design the OptiLife RX program, and I started talking about what foods are allowed and what foods are not, and we give you a chart if you come through our class, is that, you know, it ended up being gluten-free and grain-free, even though that wasn't what I intended to do when I started. I didn't say, oh, well, let's make sure that we're gluten or grain-free. But all the research and all the anecdotal evidence over the years says that that's what's healthy. And so that's just how the entire program actually became gluten-free without being set out to be gluten-free. So again, we hope that this has been helpful information for you. Again, share, like on Facebook. We would appreciate any 5-star reviews you can give us so that more people can see this. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Send in your questions and sign up for your free spot at the OptiLife RX Wellness Workshop at optimylife.com. See you next time.
Be prepared to listen to something that you've never heard of before and sounds almost crazy. I mean, it does. It sounds a little crazy, you know, and then watch your body, your mind, your whole attitude transform, and it's worth every minute of it.